sweetgeorgiapam.com. That's your hub to find out about a free guide that she's got to help you recall your dreams better, her newsletter that I think is brilliantly written that you can be a part of. Also, you can get one-on-one sessions with Pam regarding your dreams. You can learn all about her. Again, sweetgeorgiapam.com. We're based in Atlanta, so that's why we got Sweet Georgia in there, Sweet Georgia Pam. Also, social media, you can DM her, Sweet Georgia Pam. That explains the accents too. I don't hear my accent, but apparently other people do. So anytime I'm talking with someone who is not from the South, they were like, oh, I love that accent. Or you've got a thick accent. I'm like, I do? I don't notice it. Anyway, sweetgeorgiapam.com. So I wanted to.
Wait a minute. Since you're talking about Georgia and the name and the Sweet Georgia Pam and all of that, we're based out of Atlanta. I got to give a shout out to my Bulldogs. I'm a UGA alumni, and go Dogs. They did a great job this year winning the national championship again. So
back to back.
Little plug for UGA. Love it.
I have a friend, more than one friend that went to graduate school at Georgia as well as their bachelor's. And they're a double dog is what they call it. If you go to Georgia and you get 2 degrees. So now they've got 2 national championships. So they double dogged it. So
yes,
there you go.
Love it. Love it. Shout out. Go Dogs. Okay.
All right. So my recurring dream, and it happened recently. So I thought I got to talk to Pam about this. It has to do with my baby mama, Katie Joe, if you've listened to me on the radio in Atlanta. She and I have a great relationship. We were together for 9 years. We had our son. We started having issues before our son was born, and we determined that we didn't think we would make it the long haul. So it was better to break up when he was an infant than to wait until he was older and regret not taking care of it when we should have. And we did it and I give kudos to her because she's really the one that had the come to Jesus moment, so to speak, of if we're going to maintain a friendship, we need to bite the bullet on the romance. And so it was painful. It was not fun for that year. It was about a year. It took us to kind of get back on the tracks. But since then, it's been great. We co-parent. We do get on each other's nerves, but we get on each other's nerves at times of things, like sisters would as much as exes would, because we're so different. You're attracted to usually the opposite. And so I'm the planner and I'm the coordinator and she's the spontaneous one, right? So when we work together, we work very well together. But when we have any kind of disagreement on anything, it's usually immediate. You're getting on my nerves, like impatience. So we have immediate impatience with each other because we've known each other for a long time. And usually we talk almost every day, and our consistent conversation has to do with our son, right? So she's in another serious relationship. I love the person she's with. And I think out of respect, I make sure that, we're concise on what she and I talk about. Right. I in the beginning, I never wanted her new girlfriend. They've been together for years now, but at the beginning I didn't want her to think they're, because that's walking into a couple who talk every day, who have a young son. It's got to be intimidating. And you also, I'm sure, naturally are going to be like, is she trying to get back in the picture? And so we usually keep every conversation very, we're co-captains and co-CEOs of our son. With that being said, I mean, there are times where we're still friends and we talk about other things and have long conversations. So we still have a thread of, I don't want to say intimacy, but I guess intimacy, where it's, we're good friends. Okay. What I feel guilty about is my recurring dreams are usually about her. In the beginning of it, we're doing fine in a conversation. The subject matter is usually not consistent, but it always devolves into us arguing. And my problem is I become violent. She doesn't become violent. I physically attack her every time I have this dream. And it doesn't happen often, but when it does, I wake up so disappointed, I guess, because I don't know. You can tell me and guide me on this. Yeah. But I always feel like, I want to get to a certain level. And the dream when I wake up, I feel like it happened. I feel ashamed for physically attacking her because I've never physically attacked her in real life. But it's always like I'm choking her, I'm punching her, I'm just so enraged by her.
Yeah.
And the last time this happened, nothing in the waking world had happened to where I felt that way. Right. So it was we were doing great. So we're not the typical exes who were at each other's throat all the time. We're not. But in my dreams, it just seems that I have this physical just anger. So anyway.
Okay. All right.
I'm being vulnerable and confessing that.
Yeah. So the first thing that I want to say, first of all, that sucks.
I know. I've never told her. She would be shocked. She'd be hurt. Her feelings would be hurt.
All right. Well, then let's break it down so that you can relieve your guilt, and she won't be hurt by it, because we'll be able to see this in context, right? So the first thing that is true is that when you wake up, your logical brain, we've talked about this before, logic and reason comes on board and immediately sees the dream as literal. So that is a natural waking mind response, to see that as a literal interpretation and to feel the absolutely appropriate remorse that you would feel if that were true.
That I'm an abuser. That's how I feel like I'm an abuser.
Caveat is not accurate. The literal brain or the literal interpretation is very rarely the accurate interpretation. So first of all, that didn't really happen. And the reason it feels like it really happened is because your brain doesn't know the difference. So the area in like neuroimaging, they've done research on this, the area of the brain that lights up in a physical altercation is the same area of the brain for you that lights up in your dream physical altercation. So your brain doesn't know the difference between did this really happen or was this in the dream state. So you kind of got two layers when you wake up, that your inner critic can jump on board and go, see, you're a terrible person, Melissa, right? So there's two reasons that comes on board right away. But what is true is that most dreams are metaphorical in nature, right? They're layered in their meaning, and the characters in the dreams don't always represent the actual people in waking life. So there's a couple questions that I want to go through with you to see, find some connection to what this might be, since we know what it's not. Okay.
Right.
So in the dream itself, let's go to this specific one that you're talking about. What were your emotions in the dream? Not when you woke up, after the dream.
Right.
What were you feeling in the dream itself?
Gosh, it's one of those things I can't remember what led up to it. In the dream, initially it was comfort, or not even comfort. It was just there was no emotion, right? It was nothing bad. It was just I was comfortable.
Okay.
And then I don't know but it turned into just well, I think what really triggers it is that I'm not being heard or appreciated, or for my personality, I guess, that I'm not, because usually in the dream it ends up being because gosh, and it's so subtle. It's not like there's not a lot of detail in what turns, like it truly is on a dime. Because I can't even, I feel like we were in a hallway or in a dining room area or something, and I just remember jumping on her. And but I think the emotions that are coming as I'm jumping on her is that I'm not getting, well, I mean, to be more selfish, I think I'm not getting my way. I think just to make it primal, I think maybe again, I don't want to give it too much description that's not accurate. I think I'm just not getting my way.
Okay. And then when you jump on her, and let's just go through the details of that. You don't have to spell them all out.
Not jump on her in a fun way. Again, jumping on her to...
I know, like violent.
Right.
And feel your vulnerability out here. Like, you don't have to overshare if you're not comfortable with it. When you're in that state and being physically violent, what is your emotion in the dream? I know you've talked a little bit about until you actually do, but then what happens?
I think it's resentment. Because it's anger. Like, I'm trying to fine tune it. It's an anger, but it's a frustration. It's like I can't get, this is the last resort. I can't get again what I want, whatever that is. And so now I just have to, it's almost like if I verbally can't get my way, then I'm physically going to try to get your attention so you understand that I'm not something. So it's a frustrating resentment kind of mix.
Yeah. Okay. So for you and for all of our listeners, if you really sit down and have this dialogue and really explain the feelings in the dream, like Melissa, I heard a lot in there that's potential for why this might have come up, right? So I heard you say, I'm not being heard, or I'm not being appreciated, or I'm not getting my way.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I wrote down kind of as a side note to that, because it felt like what felt true for me as I was kind of standing in that space in my version of your dream is she overrides or overpowers me. Or I give her more power than I'm giving to me. And so on a dime, which is reflexive, my reflex kind of comes roaring out of me so that I can I'm projecting my own stuff, right? So that I can stand up for myself. Like I will be heard. I will get my attention. I will show my power.
Now, let me ask a question, because I will say that this dream came up in kind of a time where I was dealing with, several situations in my life
Yeah.
that were frustrating. So the other question is, does she represent her, or does she represent a collective? Because at the time, that's why the logic mind when I woke up was confused, because she and I had been getting along great and collaborating great, but there were other things in my life that I probably felt more frustrated by than her.
Perfect. That's perfect. So this is why I say your dreams are to you, for you, right? Because there is some identifier, there's some fingerprint in there for you to notice. And I can't always necessarily pinpoint where that is for you, but I can help you kind of feel it out. So when you were talking about this, it seems really clear to me that she is a stand-in for something else that is has that particular fingerprint of frustration, right? And the reason she comes up is because the way that your dreaming mind works is it casts a wide net over, okay, I've got this one buildup of frustration happening in waking life. Maybe it's in a new situation I'm not familiar with, or it's a relationship I'm not real comfortable with. So your dreaming mind casts a wide net. What have I ever experienced that feels similar to that emotional fingerprint? And so it could be that that's why Katie Jo pops up in this scenario, is because that's a familiar place where you can experience acting that frustration out, or your dreaming mind can show you how your triggered response looks and feels. Right, which might be what this is about.
Well, also, I mean, especially during the pandemic, she's one of the most consistent people that I've been able, that I've seen, because of our exchange of our son too. But at the time, it makes more sense again from my interpretation of it, and knowing that there were things that I guess, again, with your dreams, you don't know what's popping up, but when you work with your dream, and I was like, oh yeah, well, during that time there was this house repair stuff and nobody was listening to me about and I'm having to make 10,000 phone calls for that. And then also there was a family situation where it's like, okay, well, that's something else that, and so, and other things that were just not going smoothly. And so Katie Jo unfortunately had to take the brunt of it, but so I've definitely had that feeling with her before too, but it's certainly not that, not at that time.
Yeah. So when you develop a regular dialogue with your dreaming mind, when you're regularly paying attention, like you are, you can go like, okay, I recognize that this is about something frustration, and recognize also that it doesn't seem to be about Katie Jo in person in real life. This isn't really a conflict between us. What it's showing you and what you can do going forward is go, oh, I'm not empowering myself. And if I don't empower myself to speak to these frustrations, then it will be triggered into this shadow work, this shadow stuff expression coming out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a heads up, this frustration is building.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and like I said, it's a recurring dream. So anytime, obviously, I feel that way, the symbolism is consistent, but the situations, but the message it's also sending to me is consistent, right? It's that, and
that's right.
And that's definitely something with me that can be an issue, is me empowering myself in a situation, for sure.
Yeah. So going forward, you can acknowledge when this recurring dream happens again, what's my plan? What do I want to do to say, hey, thanks for showing me that before it came to blows in waking life?
Right, right,
And
right.
I'm going to try to do better to you, self. I'm going to try to empower you, hear you. I hear that you want to beat the wall down or you want to beat somebody up so that you can be heard. Let me see if I can help you out today. And then you just go about your day looking out for yourself in a different way.
See, I mean, that dreams are entertaining, but dreams also are there to serve a purpose for you if you want them to. SweetGeorgiaPam.com is the website. If you have a hard time remembering dreams like mine, then go to SweetGeorgiaPam.com. She's got a free guide, 6 nights to better dream recall. Thank you, my love. And that's an idea of what you'd get in a one-on-one session, you know, just kind of digging deeper and being vulnerable. She is on the social medias, SweetGeorgiaPam.com. You can always DM her. And if you're watching on YouTube, we haven't even talked about this here in the past couple episodes, but if you're watching on YouTube, we are on YouTube, and you can leave a description of your dream in the comments. We may use them for future shows. So, Pam, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, my love. Sweet dreams, everybody.